So in soybean, you really, again, need to know what you're spraying, and most of the time, it's not going to pay off right now.
Right.
Tim Reinbach, I'm the Director of Field Operations and Communications, as well as the Assistant Director of Natural Resources at the University of Missouri. Well, welcome to Tim's Take, and today we have Dr. Mandy Bish. She's our State Extension Plant Pathologist. Soybeans, you've done a lot, 70 different?
Pretty close, 66, yeah.
And these are on farmers' fields?
Yes, on farmers' fields where farmers pick the products.
And you have had a yield response.
Yes. So we have had a yield response. If you look at we like to look at both the median, which is the middle yield response, and then the average yield response across these 66 trials. And they're both within 1.6 or 1.8 bushels per acre yield response. So you are getting a yield response for the fungicide. But then if you start doing the math on how much the chemical cost, how much the labor cost, on most of our applications, we did not see a positive return on investment.
Was there ever conditions you were getting a 5 or 6 bushel increase that was skewed by a bunch of zeros?
I was going to say, I'll answer that question if I can answer the
sure.
worst scenario too.
Okay, sure.
So in one field, we did see a 12 bushel per acre increase, right? So if we could all see that, then it's like, let's do it. Yeah. But we also saw in multiple fields where we saw negative, where the fungicide treated strips were actually yielded less than the non-treated. And so one of the things that I'm doing with this data set now, working with our soybean agronomists to kind of develop models that can help us predict, are we likely to see a positive return on investment, or in what scenario am I most likely to increase my odds of a positive return on investment? And I do want to say, Missouri Soybean Merchandising Council has provided funding for us to do the on-farm work and also to kind of explore this a little bit more to try to optimize our fungicide applications.
Sure. And what diseases are we looking for in soybeans?
So I'm laughing because people ask this a lot. It's a good question. It's a valid question.
That's 2 good questions.
But we have not seen high fungal foliar disease pressure in soybean. That's going to change. You know, we've had some warmer weather. We've had some maybe fungi move north from where we're used to seeing them, but we haven't seen, when I ask farmers what we're spraying for, and when I ask pesticide applicators what we're spraying for, they always say frog eye leaf spot.
Right. And we had a discussion a while ago about that.
Yeah. So in 2018, there were some fields where you had some susceptible soybean planted, and we did see some differences. That was before my time, but when I go back and look at the data, you can see a fungicide response that was about 4 bushel per acre, on our strip trials in a frog eye field. But then what did the farmer do the next year? He planted a variety that was tolerant to frog eye. So we only saw one field out of 66 across 5 years, across the entire state, that had frog eye at a pressure that warranted a fungicide application.
So our breeders have got some tolerance for a lot of these diseases now.
Our soybean genetics continue to get better and better, and scouting is always going to be recommended, right? But we have a Septoria brown spot, which are the brown spots in the lower canopy. And that can look pretty bad, but there's no evidence that a fungicide application is going to provide a yield increase unless those brown spots start getting to the upper canopy, which rarely do we see.
Just like in corn, you got to think about the sun is hitting the upper canopy.
Right.
And that's what's feeding the pods. So you got to look at, are they taken care of?
Right.
If it's down below, it's not that big of a deal.
Once you start getting into the reproductive stage, right? Yeah.
Now, like our sudden death and others, you can't do anything about those, can we?
Not in the middle of the season, right? But I would say we have a lot of those diseases like sudden death that they all look similar. And knowing what's out there, if you're spraying your soybean, getting out of the cab and going out and looking at the sudden death syndrome plants to see that it's actually sudden death, or is it red crown rot, or is it brown stem rot or deck-head stem borer, can help you come up with plans again for the future crops.
Now, those that you just mentioned, were those fungal or those bacteria? Or
So 3 of them are fungal. 1 of them is an insect. And the fungi like different conditions. So knowing which one you have, or if you have both, might help with management decisions, like early planting versus normal planting, which seed treatments might be the best for it and such like that.
Early planting usually better or worse for diseases?
Depends.
I love that answer.
Right. So we know that sudden death syndrome, the fungus that causes that, prefers cooler conditions. Okay. And so does Pythium in general. And so if you have cool, wet conditions, you might be more likely to have those kind of diseases. However, the newer disease in the state, red crown rot, prefers a little bit warmer conditions, like our May conditions. So it's like, oh, maybe I want to plant that early. At the same time, I don't want to spread it everywhere. So I got to get that soil off of the equipment.
So knowing what you have is important, and also in your newsletters and such, you can get some information of, hey, we're seeing a lot of this.
Right. And that's what a couple of years ago when we had drought, we had a lot of charcoal rot coming in June, which was totally not normal.
Right.
So the newsletters can help with that. And I would say also, I know you don't have a lot of time. No one has a lot of time, right? So if you don't have time to examine the plants, I mean, it does cost $15, but send a couple of plants in so that we can figure out what you have in your field. We're working on some assays. Dr. Tian, I think, has it up and running where we can test plants for 4 different diseases like in a day. So, yeah.
And the thought that, I farm a lot of acres, I can afford to spray everything.
Yeah.
And not have to worry about it with corn and soybean. That's not good, though, for the long run, is it?
It's not. And when you think about pesticide resistance as well, like I think, we can see a water hemp plant that is resistant to everything. We can't always see the fungi, but when you have very low levels of fungi that aren't hurting yield and you're spraying them over and over, we should assume they're going to be resistant, right, when we start to see them. The other thing I would say is on our soybean applications, we don't always factor in labor, right? The fungicide product, but because we're and oftentimes we're the ones spraying, right?
Right.
But your labor is costing you something, like it is costing you time away from something else, whether that be kids' baseball games or doing something else on the farm. So factoring
or scouting your corn,
or scouting your corn for when to get that positive return on investment. Good, yeah. So just being mindful that you need to include your labor as part of the equation when you're figuring out the return on investment for your fungicide application in soybean.
So in soybean, you really, again, need to know what you're spraying, and most of the time it's not going to pay off right now.
Right, and I would say you don't have to take my word for it. I'm good with that. But try it yourself. We have a lot of MU field extension specialists who are trained on how to do a strip trial. So go out and do every other pass with your sprayer and then come back and harvest the middle first, and you will have your own estimate on that. Don't do one of these things where you put fungicide on your high yielding areas and then the borders you're not spraying fungicide. That's not a fair comparison.
That's right.
But yeah, it's not that much. It actually saved you money this year if you just did strips.
Right.
And get a look at it.
And maybe even with drones, for example.
Right. Yeah.
Real quick, here we are in end of March. Wheat just got frosted on pretty hard. But we will, end of April, 1st of May, start having the flag leaf out. And that's when we want to start scouting it, don't we?
Yeah, I think scouting just a little bit before. If you do see stripe rust, we have had some stripe rust in the last couple of years, and the flag leaf application timing is good for that. I think, we can see stripe rust, we can see leaf rust, stem rust. So again, it's one of those where it would be helpful to be sure that you have stripe rust because that's the one that really can affect.
And the other two rusts don't affect too much?
Not usually. Okay. If we have weather conditions that completely favor it, then maybe, but yeah, not too much. And then, anthesis has been shown to be the best timing for a application for Fusarium head blight or wheat scab. But that's another area where our genetics have gotten better over time, and we don't see as much of it maybe as some other places or as we used to. So.
All right. So again, knowing what you got, and if you can't identify it, get your area agronomist to help you out.
Yeah.
Or go or send your samples into the diagnostic lab, and they can tell you exactly what you got.
Yeah, I think I know nobody has time, but that time to send a sample in can help you really optimize your return on investment, which is what we all want at the end of the day.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mandy. The farming season's upon us now, so we'll.
Here we go.
Yes, right. Days that we have right now with tight returns, every dollar that we can save goes a long ways, or that we can make on the positive end too.
exactly. And I think when I hear people saying we're going to cut back on the residual herbicides, there's a lot there that I don't understand, but I just think like, make sure that's where you need to cut as opposed to the fungicides and soybean, right? Like, right. Or let's do the strips and fungicides and do the residual all. Yeah. So lots of decisions.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, thanks so much, Mandy. And this is it for Tim's Take. We'll see you next time.